Hi. I'm Harrison. I'm still Harrison. So we have Harrison, me, and then Stefanie, who will introduce herself momentarily on the call. Both product in reporting group at HubSpot. And super excited to talk you through kind of the overarching, just a bunch of new things in reporting. So the general gist is going to be, we're going to talk about some new stuff. We're going to talk about things that recently released. We're going to talk about some concepts of kind of where we're headed, and then leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So definitely, if you have questions, maybe hold them for that portion. We'll try to keep up on the chat. Right now, I can't see it, so we'll try to keep on that as we're going. But we're going to bounce back and forth a little bit. I'll give it to Steph for a sec just to introduce herself, and then I'll talk through kind of what we're going to dive into.
Absolutely. So hi, everyone. My name is Stefanie. I am also a product manager over on the reporting team with Harrison. My core focus areas are everything to do with dashboards, out-of-the-box reporting, whether that's in the analytics suite or on an analyze tab, and a cool new feature with embedded dashboards, which we're going to talk about later on. But very, very excited to chat with all of you today about all the cool stuff that my team is working on.
Lovely. Let me see if I move this. Oh, okay. I think I figured out. I can see what's going on in the world. Okay, cool. We are prepared. Okay, so as I mentioned already, here's the plan. What released recently? What's coming next? Q&A. We're going to keep it simple. Now, I think I saw some folks in the chat mention it. A lot of stuff has changed in reporting lately, which is really exciting. We have a lot of things to talk about. So again, we're going to try to generally talk about some stuff that's already released. We'll try to note that when we're talking about it. We're also going to talk about some things that are in beta. And then at the end, we're going to talk about some things that aren't even in beta yet. I know this crew is a little deeper in the weeds than most, and super excited to get kind of some reactions to stuff, to think through things. And also, we're going to have a space at the very end of this that if you wanted to hop in and say like, hey, I would love to talk about anything we share today more, or talk about things that are maybe in the future, or anything else for that matter, we're actually going to get this deck shared out. And then what we've done is we've gone through and we have put together little demo videos for every single thing that we're talking about. So there's tons of little videos for you to watch. We know there's a lot of content here, so we want to give you something that you can easily hop into and kind of be like, hey, what was that thing that you just talked through in that meeting, because you talked through so many things. This will be an easy way for you to hop back in and find those and dive in, ask questions. Those will all be little looms that are public, so you can leave comments on that. And again, we are all about like any way you would like to talk to us. We love talking to people, so it should be super fun. If there are no other questions or comments before we head in, I just see lots of yay demos, which I'm into. Let's just do more yay demos. Okay, so first thing I wanted to dive into here, not that screen, is this screen. All right, so I'm going to start on this section. I'm going to go through a few things that are closer to my space, and then I'm going to hand it over to Stefanie to go through some things that are closer to her space. First thing I wanted to mention, something that I have done a lot of talking about anytime you see me on a meeting, and a space that I really focus on a ton is the report viewer. When I say report viewer, that's the phrase I use for this screen. You click the little kind of abacus thing, and this is the report viewer. You can access this from either the dashboards or reports list as the primary methods. What you're probably also starting to see, for those of you who are paying close attention, is this is also starting to pop up in other spots of HubSpot. So you might be saying, hey, I think I can open this now from this Analyze tab and things like that. That's intentional. It's intended to be this space that is really, really easy for you to hop into. So I want to talk through some of the changes we've made in this space in the last little bit. So I'm going to whiz through these pretty quick, but up at the top, one thing that you might all notice is filters used to be over on the right, and they're not there anymore. They're up over at the top now. And with that, one of the big things that we want to do is pull in the CRM filters. Hopefully, you're looking at this and saying, like, Harrison, that doesn't seem new. If so, that was intentional. This is the exact kind of filter structure from the index page. And that's what we've been trying to do in reporting, is pull a lot of those features over into reporting, kind of make it consistent. I want to mention something, though, that can be a little confusing, and I want to admit this is confusing right now. What we've been working on is trying to pull these over into the report viewer, but this is currently just applying to reports that come from the single object report builder or template reports. What you'll see if you were to look at something that's in, let's say, like a custom report builder report, and I know someone just asked, what page are you right now? I'm opening up the report viewer from the dashboard. So I'm going to go open one of these that's a custom report builder report. You'll see that we also have kind of the advanced filters up at the top here. This is still something that we're working on pulling in some of these other features. So you can see these now on this page, but it isn't quite the level of editability that I really want to get this to. And so something really important is that like we are working to pull this and make it consistent across all of these spaces. Not quite there yet, but hopefully that's been a little easier for y'all to use because it's just the filters you're already used to. Some other things that are in this page that I love a lot of feedback on, just recently released, I know someone already mentioned it, we're bringing forward a bunch of settings. And so something that we've been working on in, again, making things easier to use, a little faster to use, is saying, hey, let's not make you always go click customize to go hop way deep down. If I just want to change this from being, you know, a deal, or sorry, about count of deals to about amount and company currency, it's really, really easy for you to just swap that instead of going super deep now into the platform. Something I also think that's really interesting about this, the editors that are kind of over on this right, this setting panel, it runs off of the available properties. And so the way that I like to think about this is I think about this as being, these are kind of the columns in the spreadsheet that I'm building my report on. So all of my different settings are connected back to those columns. And it's kind of like a base setup of, hey, set up all the columns that you want. And now someone can hop in and all of these options are going to be related back to what those columns are. And then down at the bottom, just to say like, hey, what are those columns? What's the data within them? Historically, it's actually been really hard for everybody to see what the data that was in a report. And so you can see down at the bottom here, we've also added a summarize and unsummarized data set tab. So remember, this is thinking, again, I use Excel as a baseline a lot of times because I think that's what we're all used to. This is kind of that baseline Excel table. This would be kind of the pivot table. And then this is the report that kind of results from that. So as you're thinking about like, hey, what's the data that's within this? How do these controls work? It's all kind of fundamentally related to those tables. So hopefully a little bit easier for you all to hop into and use. Let's see, we have some questions in the chat that are saying, hey, like, where is this again? So yeah, remember, this is anytime I'm on a dashboard, it's as if I open up from this little abacus, or if I would click into a report on the reports list. And what we're showing is in beta. In this case, yes, great question, Kristen. That is actually not in beta, but this is where I mentioned we started this on single object reports, kind of these simpler reports, and then we're pulling this over to custom report builder reports as soon as we can. So do expect that to come down the pipeline as we get those to be a little easier to edit. All right, so that was a lot of the big changes we made into the report viewer. I am going to talk a little more about this report summary section in a little bit, but I'm not going to say a certain two-letter word yet, so we're going to wait for that till a little later in the presentation. Many of you probably know what I'm talking about there, but we'll get there. Other thing I wanted to mention, I know a lot of people haven't been aware that this is available yet, and this is also fully available. Some, especially for admins, I think is important. Tables are great, but tables can be kind of hard to understand because you have a lot of data and it's just a big table. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have some color? So I don't know if everyone is fully aware, but this is available. This is out in both the custom report builder and the single object report builder. If you go into chart settings, you now have conditional formatting. And this is something I know a lot of people have been asking for a while. So now if I want to say, hey, let's make it so that this amount and company currency maybe pops off the page a little bit more, I could go and really easily set that up and have it be, okay, we want really to focus on kind of like these green is big deals. So it's really easy to now hop in, add this in here. You can obviously fully customize these colors. I know a certain person, Kyle Jepson, gave me heat for these things being not the best colors with the color of the links. But no, well, I don't disagree. But these are all easy able to be edited. You can come into advanced and set whatever colors your heart desires. So definitely something to go in and make your tables look a little fancier. A fun one that makes it just easy. And again, I think a lot of people weren't aware that this release, it is obviously in this case in the settings. I have to go a little deeper to do that. And again, this is on both single object reports and custom report builder reports. So these are the two first things that I wanted to talk about that are fully out in the wild today. Both of these that I talked about are fully available. I'm going to hand it over to Steph for a little bit to talk about the stuff that's fully available in hers. The next section we'll go into is a few things that are in beta today. So Steph, you can go for it. If you'd like to take the screen, I can stop sharing.
I can steal the screen there. Apologies for the inception that's about to happen for everyone. Alrighty.
Looks good.
Can you all see the world? Amazing. So the first feature I'm going to be showing you all today is the report search. And report search has gone through a massive change over the last couple of months. What you used to see in reports list for search was only able to look at the reports within your existing list. You couldn't find them, like you couldn't use search to find template reports. You couldn't find them analytics tools. It was just this is the only thing that you have available to search for. So we've made that a little bit easier because I have seen some of your portals. There are hundreds of reports to go through, and it's really difficult to just scroll and scroll and scroll, paginate, paginate, paginate. So this is our brand new search tool. It's very cool. We're able to highlight some of the searches that you've done recently. And we also have a very cool AI feature tied into this, which is going to help with highlighting new content, highlighting content from the analytics suites that maybe you haven't seen before, and giving you some explanations as to why we're recommending it. So I'll give a quick walkthrough of how it works. I'm going to search for tickets. It's going to take a look through all of the reports in my my reports list. I have a couple of filters I can apply here, similar to the ones that exist already within your regular reports list, just a filtered down version. And then if we scroll a little bit, you can see some of our new ready-made reports. So this is being powered by Breeze, by HubSpot AI, and we are matching the search term with the best matches from our library. So hopefully this is some new content that you haven't seen before. And then we're also generating a little bit of an explainer as to why we think these reports are going to be the most meaningful for you. And then if we scroll all the way to the bottom, it's like, these are like our top guesses. Like you should probably check these ones out first. And then if you need even more results, if you scroll a little bit further, we'll have more options below. And yeah, we also have a couple of pre-made questions to help get you started. So this is a search that you can use with keywords, with report names that you already know, or you can ask it a question and it'll do its best to find an answer for you. So the question I just picked is, how long does it take to assign a conversation to a user? So for our support team folks here, it doesn't look like I have any reports that match that in my library, but if I scroll down, I have a bunch of brand new options to help me to like showcase some new content to go through. So yeah, that's our brand new report search. Very cool. This one's been out for a couple of months now. We're still making some tweaks to the visualizations here, but functionality-wise, this is out to everyone and ready to go. We also made some updates to permissioning for dashboards specifically. So permissioning used to be very much kind of on or off. You either had access to a dashboard or you didn't, or one team had access, or you've selected a team and they have access or they don't have access. So we've made it a little bit easier to apply some more granularity to that flow. We know how important it is to be able to manage who has access to a dashboard and make sure that the right team members have the right access. So I'm going to pop into just a demo dashboard in here. And this is available at the top next to assigned. You can also access this through the dashboards list on the little action bar. So I'll show you how to do that in a second. But what I mean by granularity is if you go into assign teams and users and click next, you'll see this new tab. So you'll be able to say like team A has view and edit access, team B has view only access, and team C really doesn't need to see this dashboard. It's not really important to them. So that's level 1. Level 2 is within those teams or within any user who isn't assigned a team, I can extend additional access. So I can say like Alex, they need view and edit, but Rianchi needs view only, and Brian needs view and edit. And I can apply all of this granularity to the singular dashboard with ease. So if I go ahead and save this, we now have specific granular access provided for the individual dashboard. So yeah, we know how important it is and how dynamic teams are set up nowadays. So if you have team members that wear multiple hats or sit in different spaces within your org, we want to make sure that they're taking care of the data that they have access to. So yeah, that's the new granular permissions piece. And then I'm going to pass it back over to Harrison.
Perfect. Okay. So now we are headed into Betaville. I love the chat is very, very active. It is fun. We are trying to keep up as we're going through it. Steph will probably hop in for some of those questions. One thing I totally forgot to mention, though, and I'll admit it's a little buried right now, but let me get this screen up again. Entire screen. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, and I think everyone should be able to see again. Okay, cool. We were talking about printing, which I realized after it was said that I think is mostly a joke, but then it became serious. In reporting, I honestly think like how we allow people to export stuff is quite important. I know oftentimes you're taking these things and putting them into presentations. A pattern that I noticed a lot of people doing was getting like really weird sizing to try to get them to fit. And I personally, as someone who makes way too many presentations, scaling is a really big annoying problem oftentimes. It's like, how do we make it so that you can get your reports to the right scale? My like biggest pet peeve is if you go into presentations and things have been horizontally or vertically scaled and like don't fit the actual thing. Like that is the most irritating experience. So if you open up reports, and right now we just have it on reports list, I think of this as typically a much more kind of admin centric area. So we left in here just to not add too many kind of extraneous features. Under actions though, if you go down here, we added export as an image for y'all, just to make this exact problem go away a little bit. If you do this, what you'll see is you can now use the kind of built-in scaling that scales things on dashboards. And it makes it really easy for you to just go, hey, actually, I want this to be really thin, or I want this to be really, really wide. And I know that's something that like that automatic scaling is something that you have to end up doing yourself on like trying to get a dashboard. So if I go all the way down and I click save, that's going to quickly just save this as an image. So now you can use this chart. Let me pull this over so you can see it. See, it's now got that width scaled appropriately for you. And so it's something that's pretty raw as to the kind of image that it puts out, but really the chart here is a piece that I know that people needed the ability just to really quickly say, hey, I want that. And if you're going to go through and say, hey, I need to export 20 of these to build a slide deck, you can now dial in that width instead of sitting on your dashboard and doing this all the live long day. We do need to get the report name. And honestly, I would love some more feedback to this of like, what other pieces would you like to be editable as you think about like, how could you export? And really my dream is to say like, what would it take to get you presenting in HubSpot? I would love to hear more about like, what would it take for you all to be able to do that inside of the platform? All right. I mentioned that we're going to head into more of like Betaville conversation. So let's start to talk about that. All right, I'm going to swap over and show what we're doing. And now we're in QA. Just again, this is a beta that is available to y'all. It's the more guided way to create custom reports, I think is what the beta is called. So this has been out for a while. The original version of this was a little rough. And so we've made a lot of refinements to this lately. If you go and if you're in this beta, you hit create report. Hopefully this will look a little different to you. What we've tried to do is, and let me swap back to show what this looks like normally. Normally, if I hit create report, I'll land on this. Personally, I find this a little overwhelming. There's lots of choices. I said I wanted to create a report. We put templates right in your face. We don't give you a lot of opinion on this. And so what we've done is we've just shuffled this experience a little bit to make it more clear. And especially, I think, for admins, so many of you are fielding questions of what should people be using, how should they be doing it. When I talk to admins, I almost exclusively hear people are using the custom report builder for these things as it has more flexibility. So all we wanted to do is just make it a lot easier and a little bit more opinionated as you come in here. So we have kind of a start with help section up at the top that can take you over to the template library. That can also just within this flow bring you to the AI builder as it gets a little weird because I'm in QA, so that's on me. All right, let's get back over here. AI report generation just kind of in this flow. But the other thing you're going to see is we kind of helped us maybe separate things out a little bit and make it a bit more clear. This is kind of a help section up at the top. If you want to start on your own, you can hop into the custom report builder. The other thing you're hopefully going to feel when you see this is it's a lot less clicks. So I was one click to get into this screen, one click to get over immediately into this screen, that now we're not facing you with this like, let me choose, start with data set, start on your own with like having to not be able to get right into property selection. And then from there, if you just want a single object custom report builder, that's a common thing that people do. You can just hit next and you're immediately in the builder. So previously that was a fair bit more clicking and a little bit more choices. Those choices, I think, it's the analysis paralysis problem. Too many choices is helpful in a lot of times. So Just a quick simplification of that create flow. Again, this is in beta right now. What I've seen generally from conversations, has been easier for people to click through, and we're seeing kind of a better conversion rate through that funnel per se. I know that's something, conversion rates and funnel, something all the admins here are familiar with. But hopefully, I'm really curious for all the admins here who are obviously helping people get through this experience. Would love to hear if that's like making sense to y'all. If it's one less, thing that you have to worry about, a little faster to get through is always, I think, a little bit helpful. So I'm curious thoughts. I do see some folks mentioning not having success with the AI builder. I would love to talk with you more about that. I'm not going to dive super into the AI builder today because I think that's a much longer conversation. But I would love to talk more about it if anyone wants to. When we put out the slide deck, remember, there will be a form at the end that allows you to say like, hey, I want to talk more about this thing. So let's hit that. All right. Sad panda. Oh, come on, Rick. Sad panda. That's of all the things. All right. Next thing I want to talk about. Let's go over, and I want to go to somewhere that maybe not everyone thinks immediately reporting. So I love the index page. I talked earlier about the fact that, a lot of reporting is just like you're building on top of Excel spreadsheets, right? And what's the most Excel spreadsheet-esque experience in HubSpot, I'd say? I think the index page is a lot of that. So another new beta that we have coming on is the ability to start to customize some of the content here. So the first one I want to do is I want to say, hey, these little kind of deal metrics up at the top. Some people love them. Some people are annoyed with them. The typical thing that I'm hearing when people say I'm annoyed with this is they go, hey, these are neat, but I want my own. Wouldn't it be great if I could customize these? And let's go over to custom. So what we're allowing now is if I open this up, I have full control over what metrics are displaying in here. And this has, I think, been coming for a long time. It's something you all wanted to customize. So again, this is in a beta now, but it makes it really easy for you to hop in here and say, hey, I want to take this, and it's a report, right? These are numbers that you could build in a report. I want to go in and customize them. So again, first thing, a lot of people got confused about this to start. It's only available to customize on custom views. We want to keep defaults as an easy starting place so people don't get confused. If you do have a custom view, as this is called a custom view, you can open this up. You can come in here. You can add a metric. Once you do this, you can go pick any of the different properties that you have. If I wanted to say weighted amount, and I want to change this. Also, what's fun is all of these names are fully customizable. So if I wanted to say, it's the hug weighted amount, then I can totally do that. I can also add a secondary aggregation. So let's say this is the total. And if I wanted to do the average as well, again, I can make this really easy and customize that, hit apply, and bam, now we have our weighted amount hug sitting in this space. So it seems like people are excited about this. So come in and give us the favorable answer once you're in the beta. But definitely request this. This is kind of customizing of these index metrics, insights, I think sometimes it's called. I know that name is used for many things in HubSpot, so I usually call it like the deal metrics. But super excited about that. That's one space that we want to think about. How can we get people more ability to report in here? The second one, though, is why not just go full away? Why not just say, let's just build a report inside this space? And that's the other really fun thing that we have going on here is this new kind of report view. So I talked about the SRV, the report viewer. What we did is we said, hey, if that's based on a table, right? Earlier I was saying, hey, it's kind of like you have your Excel table and this is what the report is. Next one is to say like, well, let's just let you build a report inside this space. And for me personally, it's so annoying sometimes of like, I want to understand aggregations of the data I'm looking at here. I just come right over, and if I want to say, hey, give me, the count of deals across all of my owners, I can just easily start to swap these out and really simply go, oh, hey, there's the aggregate count of all of these, right? And this is something that makes it so much easier to understand the data in there. And also the benefit of all those settings that we've brought forward makes it much simpler for you to do this. So super, super excited about that. Again, this is this one is the report. I think it's the report view beta. I think Kyle was grabbing that. Kyle, can you grab this one as well? We have the deal insights customization, and then the other one is the report view type. These are in private beta right now, so definitely we'll start to get you all added into that so you can start to hop in and play with this. But both of these are really fun ways to kind of get into just getting reports in other spaces and getting reports into a space that you all commonly already work. I think that's what I wanted to cover with this one. I don't know if there are any questions. I think a lot of it was about like, can I please get into this beta? So love that. Love getting some feedback. I'm going to hand it over to Stefanie to talk about one more space that we think about. Hey, can we allow you to get more reports into other spaces?
Absolutely. Let me steal the screen again. Can y'all see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So I have one more thing I want to show you all, which is embedded dashboards. This is a brand new feature that got put out during Spring Spotlight. We currently have it in the CS workspace as well as the sales workspace, but we are actively working on the sales performance workspace as well as help desk workspace. Man, how many times can I say workspace and dashboards in one breath? But embedded dashboards, I'm very excited to share this with you all. We had a lot of really positive feedback about this during our private beta. We are now in public beta, so this should be available for you to opt into if you have these workspaces enabled. So as a workspace admin, we know how important it is to be able to really let your team drill into a source of truth, the data that they need to look at on a day-to-day basis in a space that they don't have to travel to. So that's exactly what we were trying to do with embedded dashboards, and now we have it. So as a workspace admin, I can come in here, click on dashboards. I can use my drop-down list to select a dashboard that's going to be available to all of the reps in my space. So in this case, we're looking at customer success. So I've got a service rep dashboard demo available. There's a little prompt here that's going to let us know that by adding this dashboard into the workspace, we're going to be providing view access for everyone in here. This is going to be ongoing access. So if new users are being added into your workspace, you don't have to worry about manually doing the back and forth of like, oh, I can't access this. Which dashboard was it again? Hopefully saving you all a bunch of time in terms of access. So I'm going to confirm that just for my demo in here. And there we go, an embedded dashboard, a single source of truth that our reps can use on a day-to-day. So this is tabular. So if someone's in the summary page and they're like, oh, how am I like trending towards my goals for the month? I can just click over into that tab and we'll have it appear for them. And the really great news about this is that it is kind of like a meta dashboard where any change that happens on the original will automatically get updated in here. So as an admin, I can come in, I can click Edit Dashboard. It's going to navigate me directly to the dashboard that I have embedded. And then from here, I can go ahead and move things around, and we should see it update immediately for the users in the workspace. So now that I have that here, I'm going to come back, I'm going to refresh, and there we go. We can see those updates happen live. So very excited to have this. There's new features coming for embedded dashboards. So outside of expanding to a couple of new workspaces, we're also working heavily on making it available for multiple teams to have multiple dashboards. So if I have 3 customer success teams, they can all have 3 unique dashboards, and we can set that up in the settings for the overall workspace. So yeah, really excited about this feature. It seemed to be a really big win for Spring Spotlight, and hoping to continue that momentum with our V2, which is in progress. Amazing. Going to stop sharing.
Stephanie, I saw a question come through here. So the workspace is typically like by default, person's going to see the records assigned to them. On the dashboard, will it be filtered to just records they own, or will it be overall just however the dashboard is filtered?
It's a great question. So it depends on how you have your data level permissions set up. So if you have view all deals or view all tickets, they'll be able to see everything. If they have it view only my stuff, then they'll only see their own stuff. But we're actively working for V2 to have that set as a filter. So it'll be similar to like owner equals me, and that will be the default. But for the current version, it's one view for everyone. But for V2, we're working on it.
I love it. Good stuff. Okay. So we're going to taking a moment here for a breath. I know we've gone through a lot of stuff. Kyle or Dana, is there anything that questions that you all had or other stuff that you saw that we haven't covered yet? From here, I want to dive into a little bit more future concept stuff before getting into Q&A. I know we're about 34 minutes deep, so I wanted to see if there are any other things that you all thought were worth mentioning so far.
No, I think everybody will be chomping at the bit to hear what you got up your sleeves for the future.
If we should, then I guess we can. All right. I want to talk a little bit, especially with the crew here, a little bit of like, where are we trying to go, which is an interesting question. So there's kind of two things in my brain that I want to think about. And I think it's really interesting with it being all admins here, because with admin, there's kind of, in my brain, it's like, what do you all get requests to do all the time? When we think about like where we are in the market, there's a lot of pressure to say like, okay, like there's more BI features. My favorite kind of thing to always pick at is something like minor tick lines. Almost every like BI tool that you've interacted with has minor tick lines as a feature. I've never seen two reports that are like one is more useful because of minor tick lines personally. And so I don't want to go after minor tick lines, but that's like, kind of like a check mark feature on a BI tool. So really, I think it's like, how do we get all of you to be able to get to insights faster? And there's kind of two big things that we want to talk about today with that. Sometimes this means like getting new AI stuff. There, we finally said the two-letter word for me. That's something I want to talk about in a second. But the other thing I think of for admins is how often you all are just getting requests for like management problems. Like there was a whole conversation earlier about like, hey, I wish we had folders, right? And it's the kind of thing that like, I know it can almost be something where like you all are looking at us being like, hey, AI is cool, but like, can I just have like a folder? So I think that's like honestly very real, especially for admins, because day in, day out, these are these types of things that you all are having to kind of actually deal with. And these are the common requests you're getting. So I wanted to hand it to Stefanie to talk a little bit about kind of what we're trying to do with some more like management tools and making your lives easier. After she goes through that, I'm going to dive into a little bit more of the AI crazy stuff. Just to know though, that's kind of like what we're thinking about a lot right now is we want to say like, not how do we make more of a BI tool? How do we get you all to like insights so you can take action on your data faster? And so sometimes that is more of like management features, things that make your lives a little easier. Sometimes it's crazy AI stuff. But hopefully that makes sense directionally. And hopefully what we've been sharing so far has made a lot of sense of like, hey, these are ways to make things easier and faster, not purely going after that. Hopefully that kind of makes sense to everyone. But I'm going to hand that back over to Steph to go talk about some of the things that she's thinking about in the dashboard space explicitly.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for passing it back. So before I jump in, I'm going to share a prototype in Figma, and it might be a little messy. So I just want to give a heads up. This is not in production. This is not in a beta. This is a prototype. This is a concept. This is not a promise. But I'd love to see your live reactions, get your feedback on how we're thinking. So before I share my screen and jump in, I want to preface it a little bit more. So outside of it being a prototype. So something that I've seen a lot on my customer calls with users like yourselves is the idea of managing your dashboards. I know you have hundreds of them. I know that they have lots and lots and lots of reports on them. And I know that it's really difficult to add new content to them and then kind of rearrange it so it makes sense in like a streamlined fashion. So managing your asset within the context of your space. So something that my team has been working on, drum roll please, is this really fun concept of being able to drag and drop a dashboard or report, or another piece of content that you want displayed on your dashboard directly in the same space that you're actively working in. So this is a prototype. It's in Figma. I tried to make this work earlier and it was a little funky, so please bear with me. But the idea here is that you're able to open a drop-down, select the type of content that you're wanting to add in. You can take you can use our search, so bringing in that AI search functionality that I showed a little bit earlier, and having it directly available on your dashboard. So bringing assets directly from your library onto your dashboard. So if we select report, I can search. I can take a look at ready-made reports. Broken prototype, that's my fault. We can look at it in a list view. And then the goal here would be to be able to drag and drop that content directly where you need it. So managing your assets on your dashboard from the same place that you're adding them in. The other piece that we're looking at here outside of this on dashboards is we're also looking at other ways to better streamline the management of your report assets in general. So this prototype is just for adding new content, but we're also looking at for the dashboards list where you're managing your dashboards, and for our reports list, bringing them a little bit closer together so that you can see all of those reports and dashboards in one place. So that you're not constantly having to jump between screens. Yeah, this is our concept. Very, very early days. We just finished our first round of POC. So hopefully we'll be getting new feedback and bringing some pieces of this into production. But no timelines yet. This is still early days. Just wanted to highlight this.
I don't know if you can see the chat, Stephanie, but people are now in love with you.
A celebrity. Amazing. I'm so excited. Yeah, this is the type of feedback I'm hoping for. Really love the idea of that drag and drop. We know it'll hopefully be a game changer. So I love the support. I also see a comment, there is a cat hiding up there, but I'll stop talking.
It's not something you
No, it's fine. Yeah, and I think not just the drag and drop motion, but being able to see what the report looks like. People were mentioning like report names, it's hard. And so yeah, it seems like a win on multiple fronts.
Love it, love it, love it. Also, as a piece of that, Stephanie showed, like, obviously you all can add external content today, and we know you can like iframe stuff. I'm also really curious, like, what other, you just throw in the chat, like, what other first party things would you like support for? Like, what type of content? I see so many people adding things like Google Sheets, let's say, their dashboards. I'm curious if there's other things that you all feel are missing from like the ability to add it into there.
Ooh, I'm gonna expand on that. Yeah, outside of the actual content itself, do you feel like you have the tools available to display that content in a meaningful way? Would things like categorization, tagging, or tabs be helpful, or something like that?
And Stephen mentions headers. So like just, yeah, being able to divide the dashboard into sections, I think.
Yep.
Do I see colors?
Notes on the top of charts. That's interesting too, of like being able to like tag out things and be like, hey, like kind of put specific stuff. We see a lot of like GA4 is Google Analytics, right? I'm not crazy.
I assume so.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm like GA4, whatever. I'm like, it's a very popular thing. Okay, cool. Perfect. All right, lovely. Okay, we got confirmation. Okay, this is fantastic. I know we're almost, I'd love to at least keep 15 minutes at the end for more of a Q&A. So all right, last one I want to get into now on demo land. Okay, so I mentioned that I was going to wait to talk more about AI stuff, and we are finally here. So here we go. All right, so something that's been out for a little bit. Don't look at the tabs up at the top. This is another thing we're working. We've heard people want tabs, but we heard that this is too big, which makes sense. I think it's too big, so I'm gonna skip by that really quick. But what I wanted to show here is this report summary. Yeah, now that everyone's looking at the thing, shouldn't have said anything. But report summary here. So you all have seen this. I think it's called like Insights right now. We're changing the name of it to be more accurate, I think, to what it actually is, which is a report summary. But the idea here being like, hey, you can hop in and just really easily get summarizations about your report. So if I click this show summary, it's going to kind of go back and work with in the background, kind of pull and do a bunch of math behind the scenes, work with a HubSpot AI and really pull together, like, can we get a high level summary of this? We've heard a lot of people acting with like using these and saying like, hey, this is great, but I need the content to be better. I want it to be something where I can get kind of more in depth. And so we've been working on kind of getting all of those pieces behind the scenes to get a little bit better kind of content that's a piece of these. So hopefully already, if you've clicked with this already and played with this is in a beta, you're saying, hey, that looks like that's a little more in depth, and that's true. But with this, though, the other thing I've heard a lot about is people say, like, this is cool, but it's missing context to my organization, and I want to be able to play with it and tweak it. So what we said is, hey, if you go and use ChatGPT or do any of these things, you can do exactly that, right? So first thing I want to show, up in the corner, we have a settings. And so what I wanted to make sure we could do is say, hey, let's say I want longer form. Let's say I want it to be casual. Maybe that's something I can start to play with. And if I click preview just with those changes, what you're going to see is it's going to start to update and just understand, oh, okay, hey, you want this to be a little longer. You want this tonally to be a little more relaxed in how it's talking about things. You could also say, like, I want it to be short and more businessy. As it's loading and pulling that together, that's really important. And I think it's a big piece of being able to tweak these and make these a little more useful. Again, I'm demoing this live in QA, so it's going to take a hot second to load. Oh, okay, there we go. So you can see we immediately get more casual. But what I also think about a ton is you all are using these AI tools and becoming pros at doing this prompting, at kind of playing with these things, getting the responses you want out. I know people spend a bunch of time doing that. So wouldn't it also be nice if you could make those customizations? So what you see here is an additional instructions area. So if I want to go, and even on the simplest thing, I've seen so many people who have reports where, like, the title of the report communicates something like its goal. So if I said, the goal for everyone here is to hit at least, let's say, 20,000. 20,000. Make sure to highlight if people are reaching that goal. All right, so what we said is we want this to be longer form. We want this to be casual. And then we want it, this little additional piece. So if I apply all of that and rerun this, what you're going to see is it's going to immediately change kind of what that output is. So those summaries are now going to be way more contextualized to the things that you care about in your business, the voice you want. Yes, if you want to say, hey, deliver these in the voice of Darth Vader is the way to get that, you can get kind of stuff like that to work, which is funny. But now, just like this, immediately this went and shifted from these kind of bullet points. Now this like big old long summary of this thing that you can read out. And you're saying, hey, like, Brendan's doing great. They managed to land, this big old deal, which is way above their target. The big thing, Karen just mentioned, was this already released? This is customization. Yes, customization is the big piece here that we've kind of shifted. And also you're going to see we've just shifted like the prompt and this whole thing. And like Karina's mentioned, hey, this is super, who will read this? Well, great, good point. Let's go instead and say short form. We want this to be shorter. And so that's exactly, that's the perfect kind of feedback. That's exactly what we're thinking with this. Is it something where it's going to use kind of the stuff that you've told it and say, hey, let's shorten this, let's lengthen this, and allow you to really kind of control what you want. So now we've got a way shorter version of this that's just kind of highlighting that main thing, saying, hey, they got a highest deal here. That's really smashing that goal. And again, I left this in a really casual tone, so you're killing it. So that was one thing that we have coming soon. We're trying to get the base version of this out publicly pretty quickly, but the customization is going to be in a beta very shortly. So it's not out. You can't opt into it yet, but this is going to be out in a beta in the next like couple weeks. So something you'd be able to hop in there and really quickly, change these things. Now, the other piece that I want to mention here is this report remix. So also, when we think about using AI, obviously we talked earlier, and some people mentioned how, the report generation pipeline can be a little rough. It's not amazing at being able to do some of the reports that you'd want to. I think it works well on simple reports, but there's some complexities that I totally agree. We're still trying to make that a lot better. But with this, what we also want to do is say, like, hey, if you have a bunch of content already here, can we just give you little kind of remixes of this thing? So how this works is it just takes the properties that are already a part of this report and remixes these into other versions of this report. So if I wanted to say, hey, I have enough data in here to swap that over to just looking at, what are the different stages of these deals and how is the status of them, it's super fast and it just immediately will change over that report. It works within the bounds of what you've set as kind of your core selected properties. So it's not going to make something like way out of left field. But it's something that immediately it's going to swap that over. And what's fun is then the insights kind of rerun, and you can have this fun experience where just clicking through and getting little summarizations of what this report is saying. It's a fun little kind of just, again, remix and a little exploration tool. So as someone who's maybe looking at this, and I know at least for myself, I've sat and stared at reports and been like, I want a different version of this thing, but I don't know exactly what I'm trying to look at, and I'm trying to find something. So just having some kind of easy out-of-the-box remixes for yourself is something just to make it a bit simpler. And again, for all the admins here, it stays within the bounds of what you've selected the properties to be. So it doesn't make any report out in the wild. It kind of just keeps you in like a little bit of a tighter area and says, hey, with all of these kind of columns of this spreadsheet, can we play with some extra different ideas within there? So yeah, super fun. I know we left kind of the AI stuff for the end. I know we're just about getting close to time, so I'll stop with this now, and we can talk a little bit more about any questions people want to ask, things they want to bring up. But thanks for hanging with us as we went through all of these fun different features.
No, that's great. So everybody, if you want to hop over to the Q&A tab now and upvote your favorites, we definitely will not get through all the questions, but we will work through the most popular, least popular, and hopefully in that way provide as much value as possible to as many people as possible. And then also, before we hop off, Harrison and Stefanie will be sharing a form, right? Is it a form? If you want to discuss some of these things further. So give it about 10 more seconds for upvoting to settle in, and then we'll start into it. So here we go. The most upvoted question with 30 upvotes. When can we get dashboards updated so we have the ability to change the column widths?
Ooh, this is an interesting one. I was actually meeting with my team yesterday to discuss this. So I don't have a timeline. We're talking about options on how to make it possible. But the answer is we're thinking about it, and hopefully sometime soon we'll have a little bit more flexibility with just the overall like the grid of a dashboard.
Got it. Joshua says, dragging reports around in dashboards is a very mean game right now. Can we get a better experience for that?
I hear you on that. There's nothing worse than adding a new report to a dashboard that already has 29 reports on it and having to drag and then scroll and drag and then scroll. We are hoping that that POC that I shared will help with that experience, because you'll be able to drag horizontally. But this is on our paper cuts list. We know that this is a challenge, and we have design thinking about other ways to accomplish making that less icky.
Cool. Joshua also asked, when or how can we get better dashboard controls over filters and presets so stakeholders can't break them when there are complex reports with different objects and date properties?
This is a good one. When and how can we get better dashboard controls over filters and presets? So we're working on a filters project actively. Actually, Harrison's off mute, but maybe he'll be able to talk more to this. But we're trying to make filters work and dashboards more similarly to how they work on index pages. So we'll have a lot more controls about how those work. There'll be a lot more parity for which filters show up and the data that's in them. And then you'll be able to potentially save views, but still working on making the parity exist.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that. And I know, like, in the chat, if everyone wants to throw messages of like, with that experience, what we're trying to do a lot of times right now with filters is kind of unify how filters works across HubSpot. That's, I think, one of the big painful things about filters in a general sense is like any page you're on, it works totally differently. So you have to almost relearn it every time. And then each one kind of has like, oh, I really love like this weird thing from the CRB. You can do like those like filter calculation-y things, which are really cool. But then I can't use that over an index. But an index, I can get this, which I can't use over here. So I think that's the big question to me is like, does it make the most sense to kind of align on like the filters experience within like index? Is that what you are finding to be helpful, or is that like just carte blanche a missing thing to have that management? If people just want to throw, one, get that form that was linked. Let's chat about it. Two, if it's something where you just want to say like, hey, I think if this version within HubSpot works the best, that's super helpful.
And what another thing I pull from Joshua's question is sort of a permissions thing. Can I, as an admin, build a report, have the filter set, and give people the ability to view it without changing any of the things I work so hard to filter on?
Agree.
Karen asks, tracking deliverability on emails within sequences, bounces, and reasons. Looks like that's still not possible. Any workarounds and or anything in development? I will say, I just saw today, I haven't looked at it, but just a new public beta today on improved sequences reporting. So maybe check that out. I haven't opened it yet. I don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
Did you have more?
Well, I think the other thing to me is I'll add, I know there's some pieces within the custom report builder that you can kind of join, and it's like marketing emails. You have to join like marketing email with marketing email analytics, I think, to start to get into some of the data. I'll just admit it's pretty confusing, and it's something that we're trying to think through. So like, I would love to talk to you about that, Karen, of like how, like what is the correct flow for this? I think that's like a fairly in-depth, like it's a hard one to get after, I think, because of some of the data and where it's spread. But I would love to hear a little bit more about how would you like that to work. That can help us build towards something that's going to work better.
Cool. Liz says, when we favorite or star a dashboard, it doesn't really do anything. Is there a way to have our favorited or starred dashboard more easily accessible? We have the recently viewed up at the top of dashboards, but I feel our starred one should be pulled somewhere up top so you can navigate to it quickly.
I can take this one. So the short answer, while you're on an individual dashboard right now, there isn't an easy way. But if you're on your dashboards list, we do have a filter for favorites. So you're able to quickly tap over. I can actually share my screen. I'll show you where that is very quickly, because I know we're short on time. But when you're on your dashboards list, we have that favorite tab. And this also exists for individual reports. We have a
Can
filter.
you show how to get there, Steph? I think some people aren't aware of where that manage dashboard button is. It's a little hidden.
It is a little hidden, totally fair. So there is this manage dashboards link that's going to take you to your list page. And then from there, you can do the filtering for your favorites.
Cool. Cheryl asks, when will there be more reports around goals? And throughout your presentation, I saw people in chat mentioning goal lines and things.
No, goals is huge. I think the biggest thing is like what we're looking at right now is like how can we get goals into the custom report builder? I think about kind of the object and the joining. In my brain right now, I'm seeing is like, should we make it so that you could have goals as one of the objects that sits within that list? So you could say like, hey, I have a deal report. I want to join my goals data to it to get that displayed. The big hard part is like, how do we get those filters associated correctly? But all that to say, yes, we're actively trying to work on getting those things to be better reportable. We know it's kind of a pain in the butt right now. With that settings tab as well that I showed on the single object report builder reports, we do have in the comparison, if you have kind of your report set up in the right way, where it's the same kind of report that would have a goal, you can go over and kind of join that goal into there. But still, I think the big problem is we need this to be more flexible. So right now what we're going after is getting this to be something where you can do this in custom reports. I think that's what we're seeing as the most flexible way for all of you to be able to make the right reports you'd like. Cool.
Rebecca asks, is there any considerations to allow reports to be shared with external users? I like the ability to schedule report emails, but it isn't helpful if recipients cannot open the preview without a HubSpot account.
100%. This goes back to even the theme I mentioned earlier that I want to know what it would take to get folks even presenting inside of HubSpot. I think about this as being somewhat similar. The concept of like, can I embed these? We see a lot of people with desire to, like, let's say you all have an intranet at work. So you all kind of have a space where it's like a login, especially for someone like an executive who maybe isn't going to go log into HubSpot, or you don't want being logging into HubSpot. I think the big question I also want to ask about that is like, what is the level of like security and things we need to put on those style reports? Oftentimes, let's say if you take like a Google Slides and you make them public, kind of anyone with that link. Now, obviously, those links are like obviously not something that's like indexed in search results. But I'm curious, like, do you need to have some type of login, or are they just generally available? And then do you want like things like drill downs to still work on those? Those are the kind of big questions I have. So I'd love to talk more about it, but something we're actively looking at.
Cool. Gonna squeeze in one last question here. Rick Short says, okay, this is huge for me. As a marketer, I am very dependent on GA4. When can we see more connectivity between HubSpot and GA4 so we can get more data in from GA4 for reports in HubSpot? For example, I would love to be able to have reporting for my key events in GA4 inside HubSpot. That's just one small example, but having to depend on reporting from multiple places would be made so much easier if we could get more of this data inside HubSpot.
I love it. I don't honestly, I don't know a ton about that right now. I need to dig in a little bit more. I know a lot about Google Analytics from more of just like the as another reporting tool, but as we think about the integration, I'm not sure what of that they make available. Honestly, this is just a big thing to me of like something we need to dig into more. I'm thinking a lot about how we can get external content into your spaces better. So that's something we'll dive into. And Rick, I'd love to, like, if you want to throw a thing in that meeting and say like Harrison wanted to talk to me about GA4, like I'd love to understand a little bit of how that works inside that space so I can think about how we pull it across better.
Cool. Well, we have just 1 minute left here. I want to put another plug for the form. Hopefully you can find that in the chat. Harrison, Stephanie, thanks so much for being here. Any last thoughts or CTAs before we shut it down?
We want to talk to you. That's the biggest thing. Like, please do not hesitate to reach out. Do not hesitate to fill out that form. Do not hesitate to, like, put feedback on those CSATs. We do literally read all of that comes through. So we really deeply appreciate any of that feedback. The more specific you can be, tell us what your dreams are. Tell us the things you want. That's what really helps us get our job done. So we deeply appreciate all of you. Thank you for hanging with us. We know HubSpot reporting is moving fast and lots of things are changing. We're really trying to make it something that you all find is super powerful and easy to use. So thanks all for hanging out. Really appreciate you.
Thanks, Harrison. Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, everybody, we will send out their deck. Look forward to seeing all those embedded videos. Please submit the form and hope to see you all back next week. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody. See you
Bye.
Tuesday.
Welcome back to the admin hug. So awesome, you'll think it's a drug. But it's not. Reporting is our topic today. Let's dive in, but first let me say thanks for joining the hug. Thanks for joining.